Well, hello everyone and welcome back to another video of some F1 2022 game ideas. If you missed the previous episode uploaded 2 weeks ago about HQ in the paddock and any of the others in this series so far, then recommend go and check out the playlist. I'll make sure I'll try and remember to leave an I thing in the top right corner, and of course subscribe if you are new to the channel. See plenty more in this series. We're currently up to episode 4 now, which is all about, today we're talking about R&D, research and development, because they have tried to they've changed R&D, of course, F1 2021 with the new blocky thing, whatever you want to call it, as opposed to tree, and I'm not a fan of that. I'm going to come back to that in just a moment. But the most annoying thing about R&D in F1 2021 is, if you've been watching my driver career mode videos, then you'll know that as soon as HQ upgrades need to get triggered, especially for driver career mode, when the R&D is locked off a particular department. Otherwise, and again, I think that I've had to create the storyline for that, by the way, regarding the R&D. The game should have more interview questions related to this if the HQ isn't upgraded, and you should get an email maybe from Otmar Schaffner or whoever saying, we're sorry that we haven't been upgraded the HQ, we're waiting for this certain amount of cash to, right, we have a right to know. Otherwise it's going to be affecting our position within the team, really. So yes, especially when it's locked off, particularly, it doesn't really matter. Obviously in my team this is irrelevant, because you are, as the player, in control of the HQ, but in driver career mode you're not. You're not in control of the HQs, and it's just the fact that they slow down. And also we don't get to see the durability, the other two HQs, the PR and that other HQ that we do in my team. So even though that we don't have any control over them, we still need to see where they are, to where the money's being spent, really. Yes, they don't have to show us where the exact money. They could say, I don't know, but at least the very minute, at least the very if in real life, for example, a team was to upgrade a part of HQ, you're going to notice that, because there's going to be a visual change there. So eventually, hopefully one day we'll get that thing where we can walk around the HQ, but that's definitely not going to happen on F1 2022. But anyway, moving on, R&D interface. Yes. Now, I'm not saying that they have to go back to the tree, which may suggest it from the thumbnail, but I do think they need to change the interface, because for me, when I started, I couldn't tell what was a minor. It took me a little bit of getting used to between a minor, a major, and an ultimate upgrade. And they used to show visually the difference between these on the tree, between these three types of upgrades. Minor was a pentagon, was it, shape? Major was a square, and ultimate was a rectangle. Now they're just all rectangles. So I think maybe tweak the interface for next year and bring back the three different visuals, because then it gives you a chance to plan your upgrades quicker. And also, if you've got an HQ that's locked, going back to this, then you can see, oh, there's an ultimate upgrade waiting for me to happen. Now, bearing in mind that there is also a train of thought that maybe you don't want to see what type of upgrade is behind that, locked behind that particular HQ upgrade. So that's something else to think about. But at the same time, for the upgrades that we do have, I do think that we need to be defining them visually between minor, major, and ultimate, as opposed to having to click on them and then to find, oh, that's just a minor upgrade. Because especially with the discounts as well, and also the prices vary. They're not all, minor and a major upgrade and an ultimate upgrade aren't all the same price. As you go through the tree, they get more expensive. So again, having a visual interface, especially for someone like me who has a visual memory, I can then plan the upgrades that I want to do for the future. Basically plan where I want to spend the R&D points the most, and basically upgrade the car better. Because obviously, as you know, we've hit a stumbling block in our driver career mode. In my team career mode, it has been a little bit tricky to try and plan some of the upgrades. Trying to get, it's opposed to trying to get them all on. I want to be able to prioritise the upgrades really. Number 3, better R&D regulation changes, because I don't. What R&D regulation changes is slightly annoying me, because what it does, it just does a reset. It basically undoes the upgrade, and you can ruin your career mode if this happens, because obviously the AI don't always do that well for a regulation change, and they're definitely not going to redo all their upgrades like the player can. So there needs to be a little bit more thought into how this goes on. I've always said as well that there should be instead of having a reset, they should be a newly designed part. So you'd click a button, for example, and that would take you to if the arrow is being reset, or maybe not even that. You just have one part of the arrow be reset. So maybe like the front and rear downforce parts are being reset, but the DRS or something. I suppose it makes much more sense on the chassis side, where you've got like tyre wear and weight reduction, weight redistribution. If the tyre wear wasn't, the weight redistribution, the weight reduction upgrades were being reset, but the tyre wear wasn't, because obviously the tyre wear upgrades don't really have an effect on the weight reduction, the weight redistribution upgrades. They're based on the tyre wear. So yes, it's definitely something to think about. As I say, hopefully we'll get to a point where we got you click a button and it brings up the new round of upgrades, and you can have a completely different R&D tree when your regulation happens, like that will be a lot more realistic than what we have now. Number 4 is my team related. The next 2 actually are my team related. The fourth one is build and sell your own engine. So you'd become an engine supplier on the grid, and you could then supply X amount of teams on the grid. Again, they could introduce other teams on the grid. So you could introduce a B team like Red Bull have done, or they could be a completely different team. Maybe Lucas Faber, for example, is setting up his own team, Weber Racing, or it's probably something more imaginative than that. But he's setting up his own team, and he would like to buy your engine, something like that. Ideally would want to have the customer teams buy that. In actual fact, I'm going to touch on that now. Customer teams should also be able to change engine suppliers. Now, there's a licensing issue here, because obviously that's probably not going to happen due to that licensing. But if they manage to get van licensing, and they've said before, we're not allowed to have driver transfers because of licensing. We've had driver transfers, so I think that if F1 becomes a bit more relaxed, we could see those customer teams change engine suppliers as well, and maybe you supply them potentially. Imagine able to supply McLaren. Obviously, you're not going to be. They want to try and make it realistic, so you're not supplying Mercedes, Ferrari, probably Red Bull, their own supplier now, and then Alpine as well. Design your own chassis as well is the next one. Now, again, there's obviously some other stuff So obviously you want to have when you've got an R&D change, you also want to have a visual change as well. You'll want your car look to visually different when you go for a regulation change. Now obviously it's a little bit of a big ask for that to happen for the 10 driver teams. That's where we're aiming for. At the minimum though, they could introduce it for my team, especially if my team is going to be the flagship program as well. Yes, driver career mode should not be overlooked, otherwise you are going to lose players there, because again there's always going to be those players like myself who prefer driver career mode to my team, because you can always, through those, you can have multiple attempts of rebuilding a team, as opposed to when you maxed out, that's it in my team. So yes, and the final one is just for driver career mode, is that something that I've implemented into story myself, is the team locks you out if you're leaving the team. Now again, I'm going to come back this in next week's episode, which is about claiming contracts, because obviously you want to be able to leave if you are sign a pre-contract, for example Daniel Ricciardo, he announced before the end of the season that he was leaving Renault to move to McLaren. But obviously still had a contract to race for Renault, and they don't want to spend the money of getting him out of that contract, and also trying to find a replacement driver. So if you're leaving that team, they should then, right, well, you're not going to be part of the future of our team. We're gonna let your teammate, who may be staying, for example Ocon, did stay with the team, so Ocon still has access to the R&D. He can choose the upgrades. Maybe also, this is another idea, teammate thinks about the teammates purchase some upgrades, because the teammate is now earning R&D points. Maybe not in my team career mode, because obviously you are the team over, you should have direction, but in driver career mode, if your teammate wants to purchase an upgrade, then he's got his own R&D points to do that with. So that's just another thought as well. But yes, if you have then enjoyed this video, then leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and you see plenty more episodes of the F1 2021 Game Ideas series. Until the next video then, I'll see you next time. Take care, thanks so much for watching, enjoy your day, and goodbye.